Hello everyone, it's Leslie from Hungry Healthy Crafts, and today I have a card to share. And today my card is featuring some stamps from Simon Says Stamp, some embossing paste, and also some copic colouring as well. This card was inspired by some bits and pieces I picked up from Simon Says Stamp, and I decided I wanted to create a panel with 3 little boxes so that I could frame 3 of the cute little critters. So I've got a piece of smooth white cardstock here, and I'm using some post-it note tape to hold this small stitched square die in place while I run it through my Cuttlebug to create this panel with 3 little square apertures. But I'm actually keeping the inside pieces as well because I'm also going to be adding them onto the design of my card. I'm using this stamp set from Simon Says Stamp called You Are Pawsome, and it has the cute dog and the cat. And I'm also using the baby party animals to stamp this little bunny. And that'll help me set up my pun for the front of my card, which says You Are Pawsome, which is so funny. I'm using my Misty tool today, and I'm stamping these critters onto some Nina Solar White cardstock using the Misty tool. And the ink I'm using is my Memento Tuxedo Black ink. You can see the kitty's ear didn't stamp properly the first time, so I just closed the lid again. And in fact, this time on this card, I decided to ink up the stamp a second time and stamp that again. And that gives a nice bold black, like almost double stamped impression. The outline just makes it a lot bolder and more impactful. So I really like that. So here we have the stamped images, and I'm colouring them in today using Copic markers. I have sped up the video because there's quite a bit of colouring, but with all of them I'm starting with the lightest colour, bringing in my mid-tone, adding some dark shadows with the darkest colour, going back to the mid-tone and then blending it out with the lightest colour. For the dog, I'm going to leave the colour to last because I'm going to, I don't know what is going to be my accent colour as yet, so I'm leaving it blank and I'll come back to that at the end. For my little bunny, I want it to look white, but you can't leave it blank because it looks really flat. So I'm using the colourless blender with some C1 and a little bit of C3 as well. And then for the kitty cat, I'm going to create a ginger cat. So once again, I'm using the light colours, bringing in a little bit of those mid-tones and then adding some of the dark tones as well. So on the cat, I actually started off with some oranges and the YR series. And then I came in over the top with some of the E08 and E35 to give him some stripes. And once I was finished with the kitty, I moved on to the little bunny's belly, and I just added a little bit of E41 to bring some colour into that. Now, some of these do have coordinating dies, but I don't have them. So by the power of the video camera, I've fuzzy cut them. And for the little kitty's tail, I have used a little craft knife to get into that little tricky place. Here's the gradient that comes in the stamp set, You Are Pawsome, but it's actually a little bit too wide to go in the area that I want it to go. So I'm going to very carefully cut apart my stamp, do some stamp surgery. And now the word pawsome fits perfectly in there. I decided though that I wanted to add a little bit of texture to these inside panels. I didn't want extra colour, just texture. So I'm going to use some white on white. And to achieve that, I'm using my embossing paste today. First of all, I'm going to secure these squares onto a piece of scrap cardstock or piece of paper that I've ripped out of my notebook. And this is a repositionable tape runner. So I'm just securing them in place. And then I have this this mask from Simon Says Stamp that I'm going to secure with a few bits of washi tape. And then I'm going to use my palette knife to smooth on some of this embossing paste. This is the white embossing paste from Dreamweaver. It's just a new pot, so it's lovely and soft. It goes on like butter. It's so smooth. It's really, really nice. You can leave a textured top if you want to have a little bit more texture and dimension onto the card, but I decided as we're going to be putting the critters on top of there, I'm smoothing it off with the edge of the palette knife. So whilst it's still wet, I'm going to remove the mask and set that to the side, and I'll clean that in just a second. But before this dries too much, I'm using the edge of my palette knife to scrape away any bits that's overhanging the edge, and that'll make it easier for me to lift up these panels and make sure that it's not damaged or smudged whenever I lift it off. With embossing paste, it is important that you clean your mask straight away, as it will dry onto your mask and it can damage it a little. So now onto my grating. I've stamped the word Pawsome here using my Misty tool once again, and my same tuxedo black ink. And the UR from this stamp set just seemed a bit too heavy and big for me. So in my stash, I have this stamp set from Hero Arts. It's called Everyday Sayings, and there's a greeting that says, "You're the best." And I thought that it was actually the perfect size to go on top of this greeting. So I'm adding that to my card panel, my front panel as well. And I think this it makes the greeting a lot more balanced. You have a small "you're" and then the larger Pawsome. Now to create a folded note card, so I can stick this on top. And by pure judgment, there was actually a strip on the right hand side here that it didn't quite fit, but I decided to actually incorporate that into the design. So I'm going to add some of this spotty yellow paper here, and I'm just going to stick a strip of this paper onto the right hand side here and trim off the edges, and then glue this on top. I used my ATG gun for the large parts, but those thin strips in between the squares, I used my Tombow Mono liquid glue just because it was easier to get into those narrow bits. So now I get to pop these little starry panels back into the apertures where they belong. And you can see that you have got that yellow strip on the right hand side. It really gives a nice punch of colour. I'm not sure if you noticed, but I also coloured in the little puppy's collar in a matching yellow colour as well, just to bring some of that yellow tone into the rest of the card. So let's stick these little guys on top here. And to finish it off, I wanted another little pop of yellow on the left hand side of the card. So I've dug out some stars stamps. This is from Avery Ellie, the elephant stamp set. I think it's called Ellie. And I'm using the Simon Says Stamp Duckling ink to stamp some bright yellow stars. And there you go, that's the card absolutely done. And when I hold it in the light, you can see the little stars really pop from the embossing paste. And I think it gives it a lovely texture. Thanks very much for watching the video today, and please do hop on over to Hungry Heffy Crafts to see more of my work, or subscribe on my YouTube channel. Thanks very much. Bye. Have a lovely day. Bye.